On the morning of December 19, 2025, the Secretary of the Navy stood in front of an American flag and announced a decision analysts will read two ways, either as a disciplined course correction or as a gamble forced by time. Just weeks after the Navy terminated 4 Constellation-class frigates and moved to reassess the program's future, the service has now put a marker down on what comes next. A new future frigate effort labeled FFX, with the first ship planned to be launched by 2028. And here's the headline that makes people stop. The Navy is not starting with a clean sheet warship design. Instead, it intends to leverage an existing U.S. hull form derived from the Coast Guard's Legend-class national security cutter, a ship built for long-endurance global patrols and maritime security missions, and adapt it into a Navy small surface combatant meant to take pressure off high-end destroyers. That pivot is happening for one reason: speed, because the Navy is trying to solve a problem that has become impossible to ignore. Its ability to deliver new ships on time has deteriorated, and its force structure goals keep colliding with industrial reality. And across the Pacific, China's shipbuilding ecosystem remains vastly larger than America's, especially in commercial tonnage capacity, which matters because commercial throughput feeds shipyard scale, workforce depth, and supplier power. The Navy's message today was simple. If the last frigate plan became a slow-motion crisis, the next one has to be built like an emergency. Let's be precise about what the Navy backed away from. The Constellation-class, selected in the FFX competition as a U.S.-adapted version of the European FREM frigate, was supposed to be the smart, fast answer. Take an existing design baseline, integrate U.S. combat systems, and build a class and quantity. But as we've covered multiple times on our channel, the program struggled with exactly the failure mode shipbuilding watchdogs warn about. Committing to construction before the design is stable. AO has documented the consequences of that approach across Navy shipbuilding: cost growth, schedule slips, and ships that arrive late while requirements and technical issues churn. In the Constellation case, AO reported major delay against prior plans and documented measurable design growth compared to the parent concept. By late 2025, the Navy's leadership moved to stop the bleeding where it still could, by terminating 4 ships that had not started construction, while keeping 2 moving forward to preserve a baseline of work and learning. Then came the announcement on the 19th of December. The Navy will pursue FFX, a new future frigate pathway intended to be fielded faster, with less design reinvention. But the mystery is obvious. Why choose a Cutterderived hull now? What exactly is the Navy willing to trade away? Capability, survivability margins, sensors, weapons, to gain time? And can a faster frigate plan stay fast once the Navy starts doing what it always does, adding requirements, adding systems, and discovering weight and integration problems after steel is already cut? To understand the bet, you need to understand what the Legend class is and what it is not. The Coast Guard's National Security Cutter is a large, long-range patrol ship designed for extended operations, presence missions, interdiction, maritime security, and response. It is not a cruiser killer. It is not built around a dense, integrated air and missile defense radar suite, and it does not carry the kind of vertical launch battery you'd associate with a frontline Navy escort. But it brings something the Navy badly wants right now: a proven U.S. hull form with real-world operational history and an established industrial footprint. The Legend class is about 418 feet long and roughly in the mid-4,000-ton range, with high endurance and global reach, traits that make it attractive as a platform for demanding but routine maritime tasks that do not require a destroyer. That matters because the Navy's destroyers are increasingly consumed by missions that are operationally important, but strategically inefficient to execute, with a $2+ billion, 9,000 to 10,000-ton warship built for high-end air defense. So FFX is being framed as a pressure release valve, a way to keep more hulls forward, sustain presence, and protect high-end readiness by reserving the most capable ships for the most demanding fights. And the shipbuilding angle is central. The Navy's announcement ties the effort to a lead yard strategy, starting with Ingalls Shipbuilding and then opening follow-on construction to competition, explicitly signaling that scaling production matters as much as the ship itself. Which brings us to the core of this story. After Constellation, the Navy appears to be prioritizing repeatability over perfection. Here's why the Navy is treating FFX as more than a design choice. It's treating it like a shipbuilding intervention. The Constellation program didn't fail because the underlying concept was irrational. It faltered because the classic acquisition trap reappeared. You start with derived from an existing design. Requirements expand, integration complexity grows, weight and margins tighten. The schedule slips while the yard tries to build through uncertainty. GAO documented one of the clearest signals of that trap, the frigate's design growth from its starting point, including an increase in length of about 23.6 feet and an increase in displacement of roughly 500 tons. That is not a cosmetic change. That's the kind of change that cascades into stability margins, powering, cooling, survivability, and ultimately time. So the Navy's rhetorical shift today matters. The service is positioning FFX as a program that will leverage an existing hull form and avoid the spiral of redesign that can turn off the shelf into custom ship in slow motion. But there are limits, because a cutter-derived hull cannot magically become a destroyer. So if FFX is real, it implies a set of deliberate trades. Trade number 1, high-end sensors for producibility. Instead of building a ship around the kind of integrated radar and combat system architecture used for top-tier air defense, FFX appears intended for the missions that don't require that level of capability. Trade number 2, magazine depth for availability. A Navy destroyer carries a deep vertical launch battery. A frigate or patrol-derived combatant typically does not. And if the Navy tries to force that level of magazine into the design, it risks recreating the very weight and integration pressure it is trying to escape. Trade number 3, full-spectrum warfighting for good enough forward presence. That sounds like heresy, until you look at day-to-day operational demand. The Navy does not only need ships that can fight the most lethal engagement imaginable, it needs ships that can be in the right places, more often, without consuming the fleet's most exquisite assets. Now, some observers immediately jump to modular weapons, containerized launchers, swappable mission packages, bolt-on capability. Systems like the Navy's Mark 70 containerized launcher and the Army's Typhon concept show what is technically feasible today, a vertical launch capability packaged into deployable form. But the key point is discipline. Feasibility is not fielding, and the announcement made on the 19th of December did not publicly lock FFX into a specific modular weapons architecture. So the responsible way to frame this is, modularity is a plausible direction, especially for a hull with space and endurance, but the Navy has not yet defined the final loadout in public detail. Where the Navy did speak clearly is production intent. Ingalls will lead, leveraging recent shipyard investment and experience building multiple complex ship classes. Follow-on ships could be open to other yards through competition, aiming to scale output if the design is stable enough to replicate. This is the industrial logic. Do not build a ship that only one yard can build, only one way, at one tempo. But all of that hinges on one thing, resisting requirement creep. Because if FFX becomes Constellation with a different hull, the calendar will punish it the same way. Now we get to the strategic pressure behind the announcement. DoD assesses that China has the world's largest navy by number of ships and submarines, over 370, and expects growth to 395 by 2025 and 435 by 2030. The U.S. Navy, by comparison, was at 296 Battle Force ships as of early 2025. This isn't simply a contest of ship counts. It's a contest of momentum, whether you can generate enough hulls, readiness, and forward presence over time to keep the balance from becoming one-sided. And on shipbuilding capacity, the U.S. has a structural disadvantage. Widely circulated comparisons, often traced to leaked Navy intelligence slides and amplified by reporting, underscore that China's commercial shipbuilding base is orders of magnitude larger in tonnage capacity than the United States. The exact ratio depends on the methodology, but the core message holds: scale matters, and China has it. Meanwhile, GAO has described U.S. Navy shipbuilding as operating in a perpetual state of triage, a cycle where delays and cost growth force constant reprioritization, disrupting long-term planning and capacity building. In that environment, FFX isn't just a new ship concept. It's a test of whether the Navy can execute a restrained program, stabilize the design, control weight and requirements, and build at a tempo that creates fleet-level impact. Because the nightmare scenario is familiar. A program is launched as fast, modifications accumulate, integration expands, the schedule collapses, and the fleet ends up waiting again. If FFX repeats that pattern, it won't just be another acquisition problem, it will be a strategic failure. because time is the one commodity you cannot buy back once the gap becomes structural. Here's what happens next. The Navy moves from announcement to definition, requirements, acquisition strategy, and design choices that will determine whether FFX stays a producible ship or becomes another ambitious project dressed in rapid language. Ingalls begins the long lead process. The Navy pressures the program to hold the line on changes, and Congress, already skeptical after years of shipbuilding underperformance, will demand credible milestones. Meanwhile, the first two Constellation-class hulls remain the awkward inheritance of a program the Navy no longer wants to scale the way it once planned. Those ships may still deliver value, but they now exist under a shadow. They represent what happens when derived from, turns into, rebuilt into. And above all, the strategic context doesn't pause. DoD's assessment of China's trajectory is not a theory. It's a projection rooted in observed shipbuilding patterns. The U.S. Navy's own shipbuilding challenges are not new. They are documented, systemic, and expensive. So FFX is not just a new frigate. It is a forced experiment in humility, a recognition that the most lethal ship on paper is meaningless if it arrives years late, overcost, and too few in number. If the Navy can keep FFX disciplined, stable design, bounded requirements, repeatable production, it can buy time, presence, and operational breathing room. But if the program grows into another reinvention, there may not be another reset waiting behind it, because China is not waiting to see which version of the story America chooses. Thanks for watching.